Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.
Shalom, 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 Yasharal and Yahudah, grafted in Gentiles into the body of the Mashiach. Listen, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The whore is fallen. Babylon is going down. Her demise is set. She is at her end. Babylon is about to be destroyed. Listening to none other than Yahuah, the prophet Hezekiah, warning you that Babylon is going to fall. Freedom's Winds 1.5 is the title of this song. And listen, I don't own the rights to this music. Babylon is falling. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. And in order to escape this whore, you have to be born again. Abba, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I give you praise for your Ruach HaKodesh in me, for you declare from my belly shall flow rivers of living water, because I have borne the witness. I have received in Emunah the Ruach HaKodesh, the water and the blood. I am sealed by your Ruach HaKodesh, and because I am, I can declare your word and trust in you to take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign. Abba Yahuah, I can trust in you for dunamos, exousia, power from on high that you have placed in me as a seed, the seal of my inheritance, Yahuah. I give you praise. Hey, Abba Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, may I not cause anyone to stumble, anyone to be turned out of the way, anyone to come a blame. Yahuah, let the word that I speak come forth in power. Yahuah, changing those who have an ear to hear that you have chosen to receive this your word. Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I pray. I take authority over the forces of hell, the power of darkness that set itself up against those that you have chosen to hear your word. I bind them. I command them to cease in their maneuvers and activity. The ruach of distraction, the ruach of perversion, the ruach of familiarity, the familiar ruach. I bind them in the name of Yahusha. Everything that tries to cause the people that you have chosen to receive your word, I take my authority over them in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. I command this word of Yahuah to go forth in power to those who will receive it. Yahuah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha that you will honor what I have spoken in the Eretz and the Shamayim as your word declared that you would. And Abba, I thank you. I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart would be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, my strength and my redeemer. All praise to Yahuah. I made a deal. My ancestors made a deal. My forefathers made a deal to keep Torah. And when we failed to uphold the contract, we were placed into captivity. Yeah. We became captives. We became slaves, taken in Mitzrayim on ships, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. But we evolved. Yeah. Yahuah brought freedoms. Yeah. You can leave Babylon. Listen. You better get a blues brew. You better get a blues crew. You better get a bruise clue. See, this is only for those that are sealed. Right? Now listen. Let me understand something. Anybody can leave the United States of America and pick up and go wherever they want to. Go to another country if they want to. They have to come with a passport and eventually a visa, and they have to get citizenship, right? Right? But you can go. Right? Yahuah said to go, remove yourself from Babylon, be as the he-goat before the flock. I'm that he-ram that's before the flock. I have to go back home. Yahuah is calling you to leave Babylon. And the only people that are going to understand this are those that are sealed. You know, me and my Aki were talking during our midrash yesterday, and, you know, it's amazing, man, how, you know, our people just don't see the need or recognize the place that they're in and understand that Yahuah is calling them to a righteous seed through faith in the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach to be taken out of Babylon. They have every intentions on remaining and building in this whore. And because I have the witness, right? You know, I see it, you know, and it disturbs me, especially amongst our people, right? I mean, if you viewed the track record, right, of this wicked whore and how she's diabolically launched attacks against the people of Yahuah, right, in every way, shape, and form, right, they're telling you that this is not your home. They're telling you that this land doesn't belong to you, right? And though it don't really belong to them either, right? They are the dominant, right? They are Babylon. They are the ones that call the shots. Why you want to stay amongst the people who don't like you? Why do you want to stay amongst the people who have destroyed your ancestors? Why do you want to build a nation that is not united for you? You got to understand. This is not our home. The United States of America is not our home. Yeah, we were born here. Our ancestors died in this filthy, stinking, died horrible deaths. Horrible deaths. You know, I had a ride yesterday. It's a young lady. And she was coming in from Arizona. She's coming to visit her family. And we got to talking, right? You know, I'm former military, you know. I think she asked the question, do you think that there's going to be a war soon? I said, yeah. It's coming, right? Destruction is coming. United States of America, much like Rome, right, fell. She's like, yeah, Rome did fall. I said, yeah. Right. And you know, if you pay attention, they kind of let you know well in advance. You know? they give you tidbits in the movies. You know, they show you in animated films, right? They show you what they anticipate, right? She's like, yeah, you know what? You know, she says, I watched a couple movies. I can't remember what the name she was. She says, man, and I watched these movies before the pandemic, and it was the pandemic. It's like, yeah, you know, I mean, what that tell you? She said, yeah, right. I said, look, Homer Simpson forecast Donald Trump. She said, yes. I mean, even down to the falling paper. Listen, this country has a timestamp. She said during 2020, she felt it was almost over. She was feeling like it was over, you know. So, you know, she was prepping, right? You know, getting her food or you know, that freeze-dried food, like MRE stuff, you know, freeze-dried food is gonna last for 20, 30 years. You know, she learned how to stitch up a wound. You know, she said she bought all kinds of books, you know, on what to eat and, you know, how to prepare certain things and how to make medicines, the whole thing, right? And she said her family has a place, in kind of up an isolated place, I think. She, you know, I would imagine the way she was talking is that, you know, it's in a place where ain't a whole lot of people there, but the people that are there, she says, it's one of these places where, you know, you're far away from everybody, but when you see somebody, they seem sketchy. Yeah, them people watching you, so that when you show up with your goods, they can take what you got and leave you up there. I had to say that to her. I thought about that, and my auntie brought that up to me because we was talking about some things. There's no escaping the judgment of Babylon, right? When the missiles are launched, right, destruction is going to come in a day. I mean, where are you going to retreat to in a day? Where are you going to hide from nuclear fallout in a day? When a bomb is dropped and an explosion occurs and devastation runs from that bomb, where you gonna be? Where you gonna escape? When they shut down the infrastructure, shut down the defense, right? Because some bombs gonna come in unimpeded. You know, there was a movie, I think it was not last year, but maybe last year, it was released. It was about how these people took over a base in Alaska, right, that controlled nuclear warheads that was in a disclosed location in the ocean, right? Right? An undisclosed location. It's built there. They got people manning it. And the soldiers that were in Alaska were overrun. Because there was a plan. They waited until D-Day, or the day that they decided they was going to go in. And then they went in and they took everybody by surprise and had total control over the nukes. And then they had control over the site that would be used to shut down the nukes on the ocean. And the site on the ocean was really the site that was, I think that was the site where they activated the defense aspect of shooting these nukes down. So, you know, they launched these nukes and it was in the air. But, you know, according to, you know, the movies. This female officer, right. The hero of the took down everybody, right? But the idea is, right? It was well planned, it was well thought out, right? Russia ain't never been in a hurry. China ain't never been in a hurry. Babylon is going to fall. And these United Snakes is going down. She has sanctioned the hell out of everybody. I did a video yesterday, and I tried to upload it 3 times. But Yahuah had me deal with seals. What the seal looks like, right? What the seal represents, right? And we explored again definitions, right? Right, because we looked at the definition of seal, right? But Yahuah had me, and I did this video, and it was over an hour and 45 minutes long. Right? But I must have said something in the video or something, because, you know, the algorithm or whatever they use in the upload refused to accept the video. Gave me some lame excuse, right? Now, I do the system every time the same way. But I must have said something that hit a nerve, right? Right? And they didn't even go through the process of saying to me, oh, well, you know, where they give you this mark on it and says, well, you know, this is the problem. No. They just sent me something that it would not be uploaded and to delete it. I said, okay. So what I did was I went in and I changed the rate at which it runs. So I went from a 720 to an 8, a 180. I think it's 180. Same problem, right? He says, oh, check to make sure it plays. I checked to make sure. I struck a nerve, but it's okay though. I still got the video. And you know, I'm probably going to move eventually to a different place to bring my videos, which is fine. I don't care. Wherever Yahuah wants me to do, I'll do. Right? But at the end of the day, you ain't gonna stop me from bringing Yahuah's Basora. It ain't gonna happen. So we talking about seal. So when we consider what the seal is by definition, right? We understand that it represents something, right? The seal is an identifiable mark. Right? It's something that is used to indicate, that something has been authenticated, right? It has authenticity, right? The seal is something that confirms, right? Ratifies, makes secure. A seal guarantees. It brings an assurance, right? Are the servants sealed? as mine. Aki, Hezekiah says. Right? Listen, the seal that Yahuah gives to us is by virtue of us receiving the witness. Right? The witness. Now, Yahuah's people were sealed under the original covenant. Right? They were sealed under the original covenant. They were sealed, they were authenticated, right? They were confirmed as Yahuah's people. They bore a seal. That seal that they bore in them was not so much on their forehead, but in their foreskin. It was an identifiable mark of authenticity, right? Now, the problem with this seal, right? This original seal that identified us as Yahuah's people, the problem with that seal was it did not do anything to affect our consciousness of sin. We were still under a propensity to sin. We had a sin nature. Yahuah, right, chose a man to be the progenitor of a people that were to be a light on a hill. They were different from everyone else because they had a seal in their flesh and they had a seal in an atonement. See, the seal was an identifiable mark on their foreskin. It was something that Avraham was commanded to do to everybody in his kingdom. Avraham received instructions from Yahuah to circumcise everyone that was under his dominion, his kingdom, right? And he gave Avraham instructions. Avraham received instructions actually from Shem and Noah in reference to how to function as a priest to offer sacrifices. Abraham was king and priest, right? Avraham and his descendants had a seal. And that seal was circumcision. But that seal was effective only if they had an atonement attached to it. As long as you were under the sign of circumcision, right? And you were keeping Yahuah's laws, statutes, and commandments, yes, even at the time of Avraham, right? And that you kept the Pesach and first fruits. You kept feast day. and you made atonement. That atonement that was made satisfied Yahuah, right? Your outward sign of circumcision was your seal that you belong to Yahuah. Avraham taught all his sons. He taught Yitzhak. He taught Ishmael. He taught the sons of Keturah, because they were all circumcised. They all were a part of an atonement. But the thing is that they all did not continue under the atonement. And the chosen seed of Avraham, the firstborn of whom was of Sarah, his wife, because that's who his seed was after, right? Received instructions to continue, and you know, Avraham told the sons of Keturah, he told Ishmael, he brought all of his sons together, and he gave them commandments. Yitzhak was the promise. Yitzhak kept atonement. Yitzhak kept first fruits. I said, yes, sir. Here a little, Genesis a little, Jubilees a little, Enoch a little, here a little, there a little, line upon line. They received the seal, right? But they did not remain under and or maintain the atonement. Because the seal was effective as long as there was an atonement. Because of the nature that they had, right? There was the propensity to sin. Because that was passed down from Adam, right? The nature was to sin, to violate Torah, right? And Yahuah understood this, but Yahuah says, I have a provision for you until I ratify this whole seal. Do it anew, because this damage that Adam and Yahuah created has to come to fruition in the fullness of time. And I had to establish a people that would be for myself, that would be a light on a hill. He chose Yaakov. Avraham, Yitzhak, son Yaakov, not Esau. Esau was circumcised the 8th day. Esau didn't want to study and learn Torah. Yaakov went to Eber. He went to Eber and Shem. And he studied Torah years at a time. See. Esau was a man of the field. Esau had murder in his heart. He was always hunting. When opportunity arises, right? Esau killed Nimrod. another manner of nation. But the seal rested on Yaakov because Yaakov brought his sons under circumcision, and that which he had received from his father's kingdom, which he received from Avrahim's kingdom, they were kings and priests unto Yitzhak, identified Levi as the priest, and Yahuah as the king. It's in Yasha. You read it. There's this understanding of seal that has always been in play. Adam and Yahuah were sealed until they allowed Hasatan to cause them to violate Yahuwah's Torah and thereby alter the state of mankind because of their failure to live in this place of righteousness being sealed. So Yitzhak formed Yaakov again on when he got his sons together, began to speak to them in reference to what was to occur in the last days. He warned his sons, left instructions for his sons. Yitzhak left instructions for Yaakov and Esau. They had to understand that they had to honor Yahuwah's Torah. They had to keep atonement. They had to offer a first fruit sacrifice. They had to present an offering for sin every year. And this identified and continued and allowed them to function with the seal of circumcision. Right? This seal confirmed that they were Yahuwah's people. This seal made their relationship with Yahuwah secure. This seal guaranteed them a promise. The promise began with Avraham, when Yahuwah told him to go to a city, to go to a land, to go to a territory. And Avraham went in pursuit of this place that had foundation, whose builder and maker was Yahuwah. He looked for that city. He looked for that place. He was given a promise to have a seed. Because of the seal that Yahuwah put on him, and because he continued to offer up atonement for himself and for those that were in his kingdom. The seal was only to Yasharal. The seal was only to Yasharal. The seal was only to the seed that was of the promise. The promised seed is Yisrael, Yasharal, and Yahudah. The Gentiles are not a promised seed. But Yahuah, in his mercy, right, provided Yeshua to the other nations. He chose from amongst them those who would keep his Torah. But the seed, the chosen, Yasharah and Yahudah, have been presented through the ages with this seal, this atonement, in order to be that which is preserved of Yahuah. They had the guarantee. In blessings I will bless thee. In multiplying I will multiply. The seed. This seal and the concept and the idea of this seal has always been in play. But Yahuah, because of the sins of man, right, understood that the seal in the original covenant had limitations because of the consciousness of sin. It had nothing to do with the Torah being a failure. It had everything to do with the nature of man being wicked, which affected his position in being sealed. Listen, you are sealed as long as you are in covenant. If you are in covenant, then you are the sealed, right? You're not the sealed of Yahuah because you turned to his law, statutes, and commandments without a sacrifice. You ain't sealed. Yahuah allow your people to hear. Just because you turn to Yahuah's law, statutes, and commandments don't make you his people. You have to be under an atonement with a seal. Right, technically, right? Technically, all right, let's think about this, right? As Hebrews, we were supposed to circumcise our sons on the 8th day. Right? I circumcised my son on the 8th day because my doctor was Jewish. And, you know, I told him, I said, listen, I want to circumcise my son. He says, okay, well, we'll schedule it on the 8th day. So my son Darius was circumcised on the 8th day. I was circumcised. I don't know whether I was circumcised on the 8th day, but I was circumcised. Right? Right? It was what Yahuah had mandated. Right? Right? This sign in the flesh was of the flesh. It had no bearing on an individual's heart. It had no bearing whatsoever on an individual's heart. And Yahuah knew that he had to have a way to offer innocent blood, because without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sins. So he had this man, El-Avraham, that was king and priest, that served as king over his kingdom and priest over his people. And he gave it to Yitzhak. And Yitzhak did the same thing and gave it to Jacob. And Jacob did the same thing, but he passed down the kingship to Yahudah as Yitzhak had instructed, right? And passed the Levitical priesthood down to Levi. The atonement and circumcision was the seal. It did nothing for the sin nature. Did nothing for Listen. So it is also, a seal is a device with a cut raised emblem, symbol, or words used especially to certify, signature, or authenticate a document. Yahuah cut the foreskin, had El-Avraham cut the foreskin, right, of his male genital, right? And that was the seal, because nobody else was doing it. And it identified you as his. See, Hebrew, listen. You can't just turn to Torah and be his. You can't just be E1B1A and be his. These things were all good because it helped us to understand who and what we were to identify, who we were supposed to identify and what we were to do, right? We were to learn and see what our forefathers did and then not do what they did. We were supposed to understand that there was Yeshua in Yahusha Mashiach, our salvation. And we were to receive that in Emunah. But see, some of y'all, Bruce, you just don't get it. Right? You think you can turn to Yahuah and be a part of a seal. Be a part of something that identifies you as his. And you can't. You can't identify as Yahuwah's, right, without a seal. Some of y'all ain't even circumcised in your flesh. So you get circumcised in your flesh, which you should be in obedience to Torah, right? Yeah, it'll be painful, but hey, you should have been, right? Should be, right? Now, even though, as Hebrews, if you haven't received the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, by Torah, you should be circumcised. Now, you weren't circumcised on the 8th day, but you go through the process and you become circumcised. Right? You Hebrew, right? You following Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commandments. So what you have to do is still repent of your sins and the sins of your forefathers. Right? But in order to be able to successfully do that, you have to come to Yahuwah with an atonement. You have to come to Yahuwah with a lamb. You have to have something to present to a high priest that is qualified to receive it. And then upon receiving this lamb, he has to have a place to go into to meet with Yahuwah in order to receive it. And then once Yahuwah receives it, then Yahuwah says, okay, your sins is forgiven, right? And you good for a year. And now you can keep Torah. But you can't keep Torah in sin. You can't keep Torah in sin. Your nature is diabolical. Your nature you have to be dealt with. And even under that covenant, it was temporary to cover you and cover the people up until the Mashiach. The seal, the seal, the seal, the seal, the seal, the seal, the seal. An impression, a device, a mark given to effect a common law seal or statute. The mark was in your flesh, bro. Have you been circumcised in your flesh? That's the covenant that was passed down to us from El-Avraham. The verb, to confirm, to make secure, or as by a seal. See, our fathers was secure as long as they kept Yahuwah's Torah and completed atonement. And they had circumcision, which was a seal. That's why. You got to be born again, bro. Because you aren't going to make it without the seal. There's no gathering of you unto his people without the seal. And it doesn't matter how exhaustively you study Torah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how devoted you are with your fringes and your zeets. It doesn't matter if you have not presented your flesh. Circumcision. If you haven't given Yahuwah a physical blood atonement sacrifice. If you haven't given it to a high priest who was qualified to offer, because he has been constantly offering sacrifices for his sins first before he can ever present them for you, because that's what he does. And then he has to take that sacrifice and he has to go into a place where Yahuwah will beat him. There's no way you could be sealed. There's no way that you could be his. Now listen. Thanks be to Yahuwah through Yahusha HaMashiach. He has ratified it. But let's look at Deuteronomy 20th chapter. What does the seal provide? Right. What is that? What does the seal get me? Right. He says this. And it shall come to pass, Deuteronomy 28:1, and it shall come to pass if thou hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahuwah thy Elohiym, and observe to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, right? Right? That Yahuwah thy Elohiym will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. Now listen, now this is the problem with our people, right? When they turn back to Torah, right? They assume that this scripture automatically establishes them if they turn back to Torah, right? They assume that all they need to do is hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahuwah thy Lord. But you can't even hearken diligently. You can't even proceed without first presenting an atonement for sin. You turn to Deuteronomy 28 and you get the blessings and the cursings, right? 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 Leviticus 26:1, right, gives a description of what is required like this. And ye shall make no idols or graven image, and not rear up any standing image, neither shall ye set any images of stone in your land, or to bow down to it, for I am Yahuwah thy Lord. Ye shall keep my Shabbat and reverence my sanctuary, for I am Yahuwah Lord. Ye shall walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them. Right? Then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees shall yield their fruits. And your threshing shall reach into the vintage, and your vintage shall reach to the time of sowing, and ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in the land safely, right? And I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will rid evil beasts out of your land, neither shall the sword go through your land. Right? And ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall by the sword. You shall chase your enemies, and they will fall by the sword in your hand. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 shall chase 10,000, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. For I will have respect unto you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, and establish my covenant with you. Now, in order to understand that, for this to come into play, there has to be obedience, but before obedience, there has to be an atonement. You have to identify, bro, that you are a sinner. You, your forefathers, and you have sinned. And then you have to have an offering to present. And once that offering is presented, right, and Yahuah takes that by the priest and says he's happy with it, then you can begin to keep his law, statutes, and commandments. But until you have an atonement, there is no keeping Yahuah's law, statutes, and commandments. There's no seal. How the servant seal. There's no seal. He says, for I will have respect unto you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, and establish my covenant with you. I will establish my covenant with you, right? I will establish my covenant with you, right? Right? Covenant.
Strong's H1285. Berith.
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 Berith. Right? The covenant is the Torah. The seal is the blood. Covenant, an alliance, a pledge between men, a treaty, an alliance, a league, a constitution, an ordinance, agreement, a pledge, alliance. Yahuah gave you a Torah. You didn't keep the Torah. So even before you begin to come to a Torah, to accept a seal, you have to present a sacrifice worthy, a sinless sacrifice, in order to be in a position to keep his law, statutes, and commandments. He says, and ye shall eat old store, and bring forth old because of the new. He says, and I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. I am going to put my dwelling place among you. I am going to have my priests offering up sacrifices for you on your behalf always. If you keep this pledge, these laws, these statutes, and these commandments, which I have sealed with blood, my insignia is the sinless sacrifice, the seal on this contract, then I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And I will walk among you, and I will be your Elohiym, and you shall be my people. See, you just can't turn to Torah and say you're sealed. You can't even turn back to Torah until you make penance first. You have to have blood to atone. He says, I am Yahuah, your Elohiym, which brought thee forth out of the land of Mitzrayim by the hand. Because you know why? There was no other way you was going to come out. Because you were in sin. You were in sin. When Moshe told Pharaoh, let his people go, Yahuah was honoring a covenant that he had made with El-Avraham. His people weren't serving him in Mitzrayim. They weren't serving Yahuah Elohiym in Mitzrayim. They were serving Els of Mitzrayim. Yasher 17th chapter deals with an incident that Moshe had before he fled Egypt when he was 18. I think I said before he was 19, but I misspoke. He was 18. Right? He fled Mitzrayim at the age of 18 because he murdered an Egyptian, right? Who had wickedly took one of his brethren's wife and raped her, right? Raped her and tied him up. So when he found out about it, he executed judgment. She was a daughter of Zion, maybe, because you know our people was just, but she did something that he did something that was wrong to the nation, right? So what we have here is now he's under scrutiny because it's gotten out, right, that he's murdered it in Mitzrayim. So Yahuah made a way so that the Pharaoh appeared to have killed Moshe. Yeah, sure, read it, right? But an angel afterwards took Moshe 40 days outside of Mitzrayim at the age of 18. And Aaron was preaching to the people, telling them to turn away from the idols of Mitzrayim. When Yahuah took them out of when Yahuah took them out of took them out of Mitzrayim, Egypt, right? He took them out of Mitzrayim, Egypt, right? He took them out of Mitzrayim, Egypt, and they were not under an atonement. Let me rephrase that. They hadn't done anything righteous. They hadn't repented of any sin. Yahuah was sending a death angel in because Pharaoh didn't want to listen to him. And he was going to make an example of Pharaoh because of Pharaoh's reliance on all these Els of Mitzrayim. And he kept pounding away at him, one after the other, after the other, after the other. So finally he says, okay, I'm going to kill the firstborn. But I want you to let the people know that this is what they have to do. They have to take a lamb, for his house, excuse me, and for his neighbor, depending on the size. Sacrifice the lamb, innocent blood. Put it on the doorpost. Prepare a Passover meal and eat it in haste. For in the morrow, we're going to be exiting stage left. But listen, don't let none of it remain. Whatever's not consumed, burn it. They hadn't repented of anything. They hadn't even been circumcising their kids. They have gotten so far away from the instructions of Yaakov. Because Moshe was 70 when he returned to Mitzrayim. 70. Moshe had become a king, a Cush. He was a king and priest, I'm telling you. Everything Yahuah does, he does. And it's all, there's nothing new under the sun. Moshe was a Torah giver. He was a king and priest. He served as the king of Cush for 40 years. He was married to a Cushite. He never laid with her. Never produced children from her. Because he honored Yahuwah's Torah. Because Moshe was Levi. He went to visit his mother. Listen, Moshe was taken out of the water by Pharaoh's sister. And he was floating on the Nile. And you know, that corresponded to their elves. So they're like, oh, what has the El God brought me? Look at this young, but he's a Hebrew. Well, we didn't worry about that. He came from the Nile, so he must be, she raised him. And then his mother breastfed him. She breastfed him up until the time that he was weaned. But she was right there with him every step of the way. He understood Hebrew. He understood his ancestry. He was reared in Pharaoh's house. You know, Cecil B. DeMille, if you let him tell you, he got his own distorted version of the Ten Commandments, which he's Yahuah took them out of Mitzrayim and put them under a seal. He had them circumcise their men, and on the 8th day he had them recircumcise them. They had them circumcise themselves. Right? It's covenant. And then it brought them under an atonement, because he established a priesthood who kept the people under an atonement. And as long as they stayed under the atonement and kept Yahuwah's Torah, they could always go to the priest, right? If something happened, they could always go to the priest, and the priest would make atonement or sacrifice if they got sick, if they got a disease, whatever they needed to do. They can come before the priest and make atonement. The priest would tell them what they need to do. The priest was the instructor of Yahuwah concerning Torah. He was Yahuwah's representative for the people. All right, they had elders that Yahuwah put a ruach on to have wisdom so that they can cause the people to understand how to function as a unit in each tribe, right? But at the end of the day, right, they all had to come under an atonement and that seal. But that seal didn't do anything to their heart. That seal was a seal of the flesh. Right? Right? Let's go back to where we were at. Let's go back to Deuteronomy, he's talking about, he said, I'm going to bless you in the city, bless you in the field, blessed be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy ground, increase of thy kind, flocks of thy sheep. Listen, you can't go to this brew and start reading Torah and expect to have this. You got to come to Yahuah first with atonement. You had to offer up innocent blood. And you can't offer it up. You got to have a priest that could. And if you can't ever do that, then you'll never be sealed and you'll never be his people. His people does things according as he has mandated. You can't circumvent the program and say it's Yah only. You can't circumvent the program. You can't change it. You can't make it fit what you want it to be. You can't. So this seal. This seal was in effect. If you were circumcised, right? And there was a blood atonement, right? All of these blessings, and you know, I was talking to my auntie yesterday, right? We was talking. And I said, you know, man, because of who we are, in the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, because of this seal, right? This Ruach in us is a game changer. It changes the game. Our forefathers couldn't do this. It changes the game. We don't have to sin. Actually, because we have received the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuah, right? We have been, I'll get to that. I'm going to get to that. Let's go to, so we look at the seal. We looked at seal. We looked at what the seal is. It's a mark and a stamp. A seal usually is the evidence of a standard exactness. To mark with a stamp or seal usually as an evidence or standard of exactness. You will never be exactly Yahuwah's until you are born again of the water of the Ruach HaKodesh. You will never exactly be his children. You will never exactly be his seed. That's why there's only a remnant. You know how many E1B1A knuckleheads that are in the United Snakes of America going to stay here? You know how many E1B1A people that are going to continue to serve this whore? You know how many E1B1A people that say they, you know, they have his Ruach HaKodesh and they don't? How can you serve at the table of Babylon, right? How can you worship at the table of Babylon and say that you're yours? To fix in position or close breaks and with a filling or plaster. So it's talking about something you used to as a seal, right? He says, to close or mark secured against access. You've been sealed. You're closed to Hasatan. You belong to Yahuwah. To close to make secure against access. Hasatan doesn't have access to you. Hasatan didn't have access to Hasatan came up before Yahuwah and said, listen, what you doing here? He said, I'm going to and fro, you know, throughout the earth, you know. He said, listen, have you considered my servant Yahuwah? He said, I can't get to him. You got a hedge of protection around him. You know, I can't do nothing. Lift the hedge and I'll get him to deny you. Why did he have a hedge of protection? Ayub kept Torah. And Ayub offered sacrifices. Ayub understood the value of sacrifice and atonement. He made atonement all the time for his kids. Kids would have parties, get wild, you know. He'd make atonement for them. Make atonement for himself, make atonement for his kids, make atonement for his house, make atonement for his wife, make atonement for everybody. Ayub was wealthy. Why? Because in blessings he will bless thee. Why? Because you know what? Ayub was like keeping Torah and keeping atonement and taking care of people. Yahuah had to bless him. I said, I can't get to him. He's close to me. The seal prevents me from gaining access to him. Put a hedge around him. Right, so my eye was talking. Listen to me. That's why Yahusha said to us, we can ask, and it shall be given. He's talking about those who have the seal. Those who have the seal have access to Yahuah. Hasatan just can't come up. Demons can't come up. Right? They can make suggestions. You have the power to cast them down. You have the authority to cast them down. See, because you have Yahuah's Ruach on the inside of you. You have a different nature. You have Yahuah's nature on the inside of you. You have a power and authority to be able to cast them down. Hasatan can come against you in your thoughts, but you have to yield to those thoughts in order to sin. But you can cast those thoughts down. You don't have to yield to those thoughts. You don't have to yield to things because that is not your nature. You are no longer the children of wrath, even as others. Your nature is Yahusha HaMashiach and him crucified, which is on the inside of you. Sealed. 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 And you got to understand this seal. Right? This seal that we have now is the seal that brought us into his kingdom. The seal that we have now does not make it necessary for Yahuah to come in and take us by the hand and lead us out. The seal that we have now, right? He ain't doing no wilderness. And if we in a wilderness now, it's where we are now. He's not pulling us into. Listen, we have a seal. He's designed for us to be kept from that. And listen, in Babylon, and remaining in Babylon, right, is the wilderness. If Yahuah takes us over to the continent, right, and we have the Ruach HaKodesh and we're the sealed of Yahuah, we gonna operate in the Ruach HaKodesh over here as we did over there. We're gonna do the work over you over there. We're gonna do the work of you over there. Servant seal. He says, Hebrews 8:7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, right, then should no place be sought for the second, right? But finding fault in them, right, not the covenant, right, because there's no them covenants, right? Finding fault in them, the people, right? Right? Because of their sin nature. Because of their propensity to sin. Because when in times past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, this is Ephesians 2:2, the Ruach that now worketh in the children of disobedience. What Ruach is that working the children of disobedience, right? The Ruach that works synergistically with sin. The Ruach that your forefathers had that was passed down, right? But Elohiym, who is rich in mercy for his great love, wherein he loved us, even when we were dead, because we were dead. See, bro, listen. You're dead until you make atonement. You're not Yahuah's until you make atonement. You ain't gonna turn to Yahuah and Torah. You ain't gonna just begin to obey. You gotta make atonement first. You gotta make atonement first. Where dead haveth given life to us together with Hamashiach. He gave life to us. The same life he gave to us, he gave to Hamashiach. The same Ruach that he used to raise Hamashiach from the dead is the same Ruach he has put in us. That's how you know you're sealed. That's how you know you're sealed. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand and led them out of Mitzrayim. This is not that. Right? I led them out of the land of Mitzrayim because they continue not in my covenant. I led them out of Mitzrayim because they continue not in my covenant. I had to bring them out of Mitzrayim in order to reboot them into the covenant. Because they weren't in the covenant. They weren't keeping the covenant. They were not doing what Yahuah wanted them to do, right? Because they continue not in my covenant. And I regarded them not, saith Adonai, right? For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Yasharal. Who? The house of Yasharal. After those days, saith Yahuah, Elohiym, Adonai, I will put my Torah in their hearts and write them in their hearts. I will put my laws in their minds, and write them in their hearts. Right? And I will be to them an Elohiym, and they shall be my people. Right? Ezekiel 36, right? He says, then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be cleansed from all your filthiness. Yahusha, let's be born of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. You know what, man? You know, it's crazy, right? Because, you know, you got these people that philosophically come up with this interpretation of how, you know, the Gospels are all, excuse me, how did they say it? The Gospels was written, right, with an individual theme in mind, right? That represents inconsistencies, right? It's inconsistencies, and because of these inconsistencies, you can't put proof. You can't put strength into the Besoras as well as the New Testament letters. See, and you know, this is the crazy thing. This is crazy, right? Yahuah said he's going to put his, Shaul said in Hebrews, Shaul says in Hebrews, he says, for this is the covenant, right, that I will make with the house of Yasharal after those days, saith Adonai. I will put my Torah within their minds and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them an Elohiym, and they shall be my people. Right? Now, in Isaiah, I'm not as Isaiah, but in Ezekiel, he says, then I will sprinkle them with clean water upon, then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be cleansed from all your filthiness, right? And from your idols will I cleanse you. He says, and a new heart. Now, this is what the prophet Ezekiel is saying, right? He says, a new heart will I give you, right? Right, a new heart. And a new ruach will I put within you, right? And I will take away the stony heart, right? Right, which is that sin diabolical nature, right? And I will give you the stony heart of flesh, and I will give you a new heart of flesh, right? Right. So I'm going to get at the heart of the seal, right? Because the seal was of the flesh, the circumcision of the flesh, right? I mean, under the Avrahamic covenant, it was a covenant of flesh, right, and atonement, right? But see, this new thing that Yahuwah's doing, right? He's going to deal with the flesh, but the heart, right? Because circumcision of the flesh dealt with the flesh, but it had no bearing on or change in the heart. The covenant that Yahuwah established under El-Avraham was a covenant that looked to be completed in Hamashiach. It was ratified in Hamashiach. He says, and I will put my Ruach HaKodesh within you and cause you to walk in my judgments, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. Right? Hebrews. He says, for this is the covenant, Hebrews 8 and 10, that I will make with the house of Yasharal after those days, saith Adonai. I will put my Torah into their minds and write them in their hearts. right? And I will be to them an Yahuah, and they shall be my people, right? Let's do this. No, I want that one. I want this one. Let's do this. Romans. He says, behold, thou art called a Yehudi, and rest, right? Thou art called a Yahudi, right? And resteth, right? Resteth, cause to rest upon, cause to be fixed upon. You're fixed upon the fact that you're Yehudi, right? And you're fixed on the Torah, and maketh thy boast of Yahuah. You know, you Yehudi. You know, you make your boast in the Torah. And knoweth the will, and y'all knowest will, and approve the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the Torah, right? And are confident that thou thyself are a guide to the blind, a light to them that are in darkness. This is what you think. Yehudi, right? Right? And instructors of the foolish, a teacher of babes. So you're instructing those who are foolish, right? And you teach babes, right? Which has the form of knowledge and of the truth in the law, right? Have a form of knowledge, right? And of the truth in the Torah, right? Thou therefore, which teachest another, teachest thou not thyself? So listen, if you're teaching Torah, you're doing it from a place of having that Torah teach you as well, or it should be teaching you as well, right? Right? Thou teachest a man not to steal. Do you steal? Right? But you keep Torah, right? Thou sayest a man should not commit adultery. But doest thou commit adultery? Right? Calling him into question, right? Thou that abhor idols, do thou commit a sacrilege? Right? Right? He's talking to Hebrews, right? He says, thou that makest thy boast of the Torah through breaking the Torah, honorest thou Yahuah? So, you make your boast in the Torah, but you commit an adultery. You make your boast in the law, right? Right? But you don't abhor idols, right? You make your boast in the law, right? And you're holding these people accountable. But what about you, right? For the name of Yahuah is blasphemed amongst the Gentiles through you. The name of Yahuah is blasphemed amongst the Gentiles through you. Right? Ezekiel 36 and 23. And I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned amongst the heathen. You Torah people. To teach people that they need to keep Torah, but you don't keep it. You don't keep Torah because, first of all, you don't have a method of atonement, bro. I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned amongst the heathen, which ye profaned. In the midst of them. Right? In the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahuah, saith Adonai Yahuah, Adonai Elohiym, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. So, right. He says, for the name of the Lord is blasphemed amongst the Gentiles. Through you, as it is written. The name is blasphemed amongst the Gentiles through you. He says, for the name of the Lord is blasphemed amongst the Gentiles through you. See, you blaspheme his name. You profane his name. For circumcision verily profiteth if you keep the Torah. It profits if you keep the Torah and keep under atonement. Right? Right? But if thou be breakers of the Torah, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. Right? So if you break Torah, you have to have an atonement. You have to have an offering, sin, in order to be in rightness before Yahuah. You just can't be walking around strutting Torah. He said, listen. Here we go. For circumcision verily profiteth if it keepeth the law. Now, what does it mean verily, right?
Strong's G 3303. Man.
So it means man, M-E-N. It means man, M-E-N. Truly, certainly, surely, indeed, circumcision profits. Right? Truly, it profits if you keep the Torah. But if thou be a breaker of the Torah, right? Circumcision is uncircumcision. If you break Torah, just because you circumcise. And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it is fulfilled in the Torah, judge thee? Right? Because you're not covenant. It's covenant of circumcision. That's Avrahamic covenant. And under that Avrahamic covenant, you had to keep Torah and keep atonement. You had to keep atonement. You had to keep atonement. You had to keep Torah and you had to keep atonement. He says, and shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature in the fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision doeth transgress the Torah. So if by the letter of the law, when you violate the letter of the law, right, and you don't keep Torah, then you violate circumcision, right? For he is not a Yahudi, which is one outwardly, right? Right? Not now. Bro, you are not Yehudi at this time because you're one outwardly. You're not one at this time, right? He is not a Yehudi which is outwardly, neither is that circumcision which is outwardly in the flesh, Right? Now, he's not saying that this wasn't a qualifier. He's saying that this is not what's going to recommend you into the family of Yahuah. This is not the seal that's going to cut it. The seal is not going to cut it. Seal is not going to make it. But he is Yahudi, which is one inwardly, right? And circumcision of the heart. In the Ruach, not in the letter. In the Ruach HaKodesh. That's the same pneuma. I don't know why they small s it. They mess with you. It's the holy Ruach. It's the Ruach of Yahuah. Circumcision of the heart in the Ruach HaKodesh that you have received, right? Not of men, right? Because the circumcision of the flesh did anything for the heart. But the circumcision of the heart by Yahuah did everything for the flesh. It changed your condition. It presented you in a way in which now Yahuah could occupy you. And you could be sealed. Hebrews. For this is the covenant that I will make in those days with Yahusha. After those days, saith Adonai, I will put my Torah into their minds and write them on their hearts. Now, you have to understand that he puts it in your heart because you meditate on Torah day and night. But he puts it in your heart, he puts it in your heart because he has given you his Ruach HaKodesh. Ezekiel 36:26. A new heart will I give you, and a new Ruach will I put within you. A new Ruach will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart, the heart of flesh, right? The sin nature driven heart, the sin consciousness heart. That heart is dead. It's stony. It's dead, right? And I will give you a new heart of flesh, right? And I will put my Ruach HaKodesh within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. So, this seal comes as a result of a circumcised heart, right? But he is Yahudi. He is Yahudim, which is one inwardly. Inwardly. Circumcision was performed on the foreskin of a male organ, right? It established him in his house. His wife, his daughters, his son, he was circumcised on the 8th day. But it established him in his house, right? That was outwardly. But he is Yahudim, which is one inwardly, right? Which means that the circumcision is performed on the heart. if thou shalt confess with thy mouth Adonai Yahusha, and believe in your heart that Yahuah raised Yahusha HaMashiach from the dead, you will receive a new heart. You got to believe this. You got to believe this as the sealed. You have to believe that as the sealed of Yahuah, that Yahuah has provided a Yeshua for us. Go back to my Ephesians 1. Ephesians 1 and 13. In whom also ye trusted after that ye heard the word of truth. Yahusha is that word of truth made flesh. In the beginning was the word was with Yah, the word was Yah, same was in the beginning with Yah, all things were made by him. Without him was not anything made that was made, and him was light, and that light was the light of men. Light shined in darkness, and darkness comprehended it not. Yuchanan 1 and 14, and the word became flesh, and it dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. The word became flesh, and it dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, even as it were the only begotten of the Father, full of grace, truth, grace, truth, only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And whom also ye trusted, after that ye heard the Besorah, you heard the word of truth, you heard Yahusha HaMashiach, he was full of grace and truth. He spoke the Torah of Yahuah, right? It was the good news of Yeshua, right? You received this word. If thou shalt confess with thy mouth Yahusha HaMashiach and believe in your heart that Yahuah has raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. He said, and the gospel of your Yeshua, in whom also after that ye believed, ye were sealed with the Ruach HaKodesh of promise. See, that's why Yahuah is not taking you by the hand and leading you out of Babylon. That's why Yahuah ain't taking these wicked Hebrews like he took the wicked Hebrews by the hand out of Mizraim. He ain't taking these wicked Hebrews out of here and taking them over to the land. He ain't doing that. I know that's going to mess with some of you guys with eschatology. It's going to mess with your theology, right? But he's not doing that. He says he's not doing that, right? Because he's giving you what you need in the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. To be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, you can hear his voice. He'll tell you when it's time to go. He'll speak a word to you. He'll reveal a thing to you. He'll open up a door for you, and you'll go through. And he's telling you to flee Babylon. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready for the great reveal. He's telling you to flee Babylon. And only people that are sealed are going to register this. So me and Mike was talking yesterday. Seeing so many people, man, just walking around here with blinders on, under strong delusion, in love with the earth pig, in love with Sunday service, in love with it, right? They think they're reading the Bible about Jesus. They believe they read the Bible about the Lord. That's a Hebraic text. It's Hebraic scriptures and history and Hebraic customs and traditions. Hebraic. It was never ever intended, right? Never intended to be for any other nation. Yahusha HaMashiach's witness, right? The renewed covenant brought a Yeshua to the other nations. But this book is about us. This book is not about the world. This book is about us, about a people that he has chosen, that he's not forgotten. But you know what? He ain't taking you out of Mitzrayim and bringing all y'all knuckleheads into the wilderness to murmur and complain while y'all still murmuring and complaining here in Babylon. Come on, y'all. He ain't doing that. He sealed his people. We who have received this witness, you who have been listening to the word of Yahuah that has come forth from me, the prophet, from the prophet Hezekiah, and for other men and women singing and declaring and preaching and teaching that you must be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, you who are not receiving this witness, guess what? It's okay, I ain't mad at you. You're going to leave you here in Babylon. Yahuah's going to leave you here in Babylon. He's going to leave you here. He's going to leave you here. He ain't fighting with you. He going to leave you here. Nah, he ain't arguing with you. He going to leave you here. He going to leave you here. Right? He going to leave you here. Right? Right? Because he told you. He told you in Jeremiah 51:8, remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth from the land of the Chaldees and be as the he-goat, the goat before the flock. Then he says in Jeremiah 51:6, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquities. So you can hang out here if you want to. You can fail to receive the witness of being born again. You know, you can fail to receive the word that Yahuah is sending. It's okay. You know, you go down with the United Snakes of America with the United Snakes of America. It's me and my house. And my house is me and my wife. And my Akis and their families. You know, I mean, ideally that's where I wanted to go, but we go. We go. Listen. He says, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul and be not cut off in her iniquities. For this is the time of Yahuah's vengeance on her. He will render unto her a recompense. Yeah, he talking to her, but look, he told you not to be cut off. You're going to be cut off because you want to stay in her. So you go ahead and hang out in Babylon. He says, my people, go ye out in the midst of her and deliver every man his soul. Jeremiah 51:45. From the fierce anger of Yahuah, deliver your soul. Isaiah 48:20. Go ye forth from Babylon, flee ye from the Chaldeans. With the voice of singing, declare ye, tell this utterly. Listen, listen. I'm singing when I leave here. I'm singing. Look, I'm singing if I'm on a flight all by myself. I'm singing. I know I ain't gonna be, but I'm singing. I'm praising the Most High Yahuah. Man, as a matter of fact, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play Hezekiah's Freedom's Wind 1.5, and I'm gonna play I'll Say Yes. Actually, I'm gonna play all the soundtracks. And I might probably play some Debar, Dagar Ibar. Anyway, play him too. Play some IO. Play some Lorvins. Rejoicing. Hallelujah. Yeah, because I'm fleeing Babylon. I'm fleeing Babylon. I'm fleeing Babylon. Alas, alas. Zechariah 2:6. Alas, alas, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahuah, and I will spread you abroad as the four winds of the heavens, saith Yahuah. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwelleth in the daughter of Babylon. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwells in the daughter of Babylon. That's United Snakes of America. United Snakes of America is the daughter of Babylon. She's Babylon. She's the daughter of Babylon. The daughter of Babylon is Babylon. You better get this seal. You better get this seal. You better get this seal. Right? Because of the wrath of Yahuah, it shall not be inhabited, Babylon, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. Right? Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her spears or arrows, for she hath sinned against Yahuah. Listen, listen, listen. Only the seal. And again, you know, if you got people that aren't sealed in the witness of Yahusha and Mashiach, they've left and went over to the continent because they just know they don't like what's happening. They'd rather go. And then some of them did their ancestry, and, you know, they're trying to go back and connect with their ancestral ruachs. You know, so they're going back to the continent. You know, but no, I'm talking about us who are in the witness. Yahuwah's going to get us where we need to go. All we need to do is just do it. The seal. It's the seal. And you better have the seal. Man of Yah, woman, Yah, that's it. I'm praying that we can continue and this gets uploaded. The devil been messing with me. But I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue. Man of Yah, woman of Yah. Abba Yah, I give you praise for your words, besoring your Torah truth. I thank you, Yahuwah, that your word goes forth and it does not return unto you void. I give you praise, Yahuwah, for you are my Elohiym, and I magnify your holy and righteous name. Yahuwah, I have struck a chord. I know I have. I see the shift in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, and I pray that there is nothing that this enemy can do to stop the word that you are bringing forth, and I magnify you. Yahuwah, I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart will be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, my strength and my redeemer, I give you praise. Hallelujah. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness, woman of Yahuwah, beautifully and wonderfully made today, Yahuwah's favored you. Go forth on this, the eve of Shabbat. Pre-Shabbat. And I love Shabbat. Look forward to Shabbat. I keep bringing a word to him. Bringing a word to him. So, man of Yah, woman of Yah, with that I say, shalom, 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 and be blessed.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.